So he was a very heavy drinker, and he didn't follow his own advice. And when it came to, he had little or no exercise. In fact, at that time, not only was I working for the naturopathic company, because I was also pastoring a church, and he and his wife were attending my church, and so I got to know him very closely. And some of the things that I discovered about him were at odds with his faith, and so I had some issues as his pastor. But in the church, I was his boss, but at work, he was my boss, and so we had a different kind of relationship there. And so I asked him once why he told people one thing, but he himself still smoked and drank. And his answer, a very dismissive answer, is, "Oh, well, we're all human." In other words, he gave himself permission to do exactly the opposite of what he was advising the people who were coming to him for help. Well, how could I justify that as a pastor? How could I give you advice on how to live right before God while I was living in sin? It's no different for a doctor. It's not right for a doctor to give you advice on what's best for your health while he himself is destroying his health. And so his hypocritical answer, it was a very hypocritical answer, was also the moment I lost all respect for him. He had how can I have respect for somebody who enjoys telling people what to do and how to live while doing exactly the opposite with his own life? How could I as a pastor do that? It wouldn't be right. He had an authoritarian view. He liked the power. He liked the authority. He liked telling people what to do and how to live, but excused himself from following his own advice. Self-control and compromise do not live together in the same house. You cannot be a person of self-control and compromise at the same time. If you have compromise, then you live in compromise. You understand what I hope you understand what I'm saying to you. They cannot both be living in the house. I'm talking about you yourself personally. Okay, maybe you are a very self-controlled person, but your wife is a compromiser, or your children are compromisers. In that case, you can have them in the same house, but it will create a lot of conflict and frustration in the house when you've got two different views of life going on at the same time in the household or at work or wherever it may be. It does not work well together. If you are a person of self-control, then you are not a person who compromises. On the other hand, if you are a person who likes to compromise, then you do not exercise self-control. I must live and apply to myself what I expect from others. If I can't do it, I don't have the right to expect it from you. But if I can do it, if I can be self-controlled, if I can apply it to myself, then I can expect the same thing from you. I can expect you to live up to that standard, because I'm living up to it also. I'm not asking you to do something that is totally contrary to what I myself am doing. See, he also talked about the perishable and imperishable in these verses that we were reading. They do it, he said, they do it to obtain a perishable wreath, but we an imperishable. What is the purpose of self-control? Self-control can actually be two-edged. Like a sword, it has two edges. You can cut left, you can cut right, you can cut in any direction you want it to go to. And self-control can really be kind of the same thing. If your self-control is for selfish reasons, to obtain a goal, to win recognition, to win awards and accolades, that are all about me, myself, about what I've accomplished, where I'm going, what I'm doing, then your self-control is selfish. Okay, but if your self-control is about self-actualization, about making it real. Actualization just means to make it real. See, it can be péché, it can be fake, it can be counterfeit, or it can be real. And real change is what we're talking about. Self-control is real, actual change. Self-actualization is to change who I am. It's to become a better person. It's to be the change. Not just expect it to change or expect change, but to become the change. Where I go through a permanent transformation, a permanent change in my behavior or in my thinking or in my actions, where it becomes a permanent part of who I am. If it's selfish, then when you're finished, you take it off like old clothes. You know, you get at the end of the day, you take off your old, dirty, sweaty clothes and you slide back into your old habits. So easy to do because you have not become the change. It's péché, it's counterfeit. You did it only for the sake of a goal, but it did not become a part of who you are. And so you slide back into your old habits very easily. Unchanged, perishable. But if it's self-actualization, it's permanent. It's become a permanent part of your character, of who you are. It is imperishable. Imperishable. It means you don't change. You don't die. You don't dry up. You don't go back into your old habits. See, there's an objective to self-control. Self-control begins with a plan. You have to have a plan. In verse 26, 1 Corinthians 9:26, I'll read this portion to you. It says, "Therefore I run in such a way as not without aim." Not without aim. Okay? "Therefore I box as not just beating the air." You have a goal, you have an objective, not just, you know, some people are just, that's what they're doing in life. They're just beating life. They're just beating the air, but they're not really accomplishing anything. You have to have a plan. What type of person do you want to become? You have to know. You have to have an image within your mind, within your heart, of what kind of a person you want to become, and what steps are necessary to become that person. Where do you want to go with your life? Where do you want to go with your career? What do you want to accomplish? You have to have a plan, and you have to know what it is that you need to become in the process. What do I need to change in me to improve or remove to become that person? You know, it's interesting. You watch, especially this happens very often with college students or even in high school. When the students go to school and they're just beginning, they go with, they've got all of these high expectations. Their eyes are wide and they're going in, and but as the process continues forward and they get more deeply involved with that process, you can see a shift. You can see a transformation happening in their life. And that transformation, those who embrace it, you see a huge transformation in their lives because they are becoming. Whatever it is that they're studying, whatever it is that they're pursuing, they are becoming that which they are studying. They are incorporating it into their being. Their thinking process is changing. The way they view things are changing because they are embracing what it is they desire to become. Those who resist it are the ones, they're going to have the lower grades because they're not embracing, they're not becoming, they're not changing and transforming. And that's the whole point of self-control. Self-control helps us in the transformational process as we embrace it and move deeper into it, as we study it. It's not just something that we read, it's not just something that we study, but it's something that incorporates into our life, and it changes us into what we desire to become. You know, that's kind of like the point of the Word of God, the Bible. The more you study it seriously and incorporate its principles into your life, it transforms us into that which we become. And what is our ultimate goal? Our ultimate aim is to be like Christ. So there is a becoming. That's what self-control is all about. It's not just about, controlling what's inside of us. Self-control is about the process of transformation, the process of change, and the process of becoming. If you want to be the chief of police, then you're going to have to change from what you are into what a chief of police actually is. They have a different view, a different perspective, a different understanding. They have a different, they have incorporated things into their life that have put them in a position where they have become the chief. Or some position higher than the chief of police of a province, or the chief of police of a municipality, something higher in the organization. There are higher positions, but you have to become. You have to strive to become, and that happens through self-control. So if you are an officer, because it's just a job, or to make money, or to pay, just make money to pay the bills, take care of the family, make sure that you have, make sure you have some nice things, if that's your only reason to be an officer, then you are at very high risk of burnout and failure. There's got to be something more on the inside of you that drives you. And that's only going to happen through self-control. You're running without aim, beating the air. If the only reason you're a police officer is just to make money only, if that's your only reason, your only purpose, then you're just beating the air. You're living a frustrated life. There has to be at some point the whole point of self-control is we are immersing ourselves. It's a baptism of immersion. In 1 Corinthians 9:27, to repeat it, it says, I buffet my body and make it my slave. Many people live to please their flesh. But the Apostle Paul here said, I'm beating my body into submission. I want my body to obey my mind, my heart, not my body to lead me around. The body is given to you as a tool. Okay? So true self-control begins in the mind and the spirit, in your will. If you're a weak-willed person, then your body is leading you around, telling you what it wants. But if you're a strong-willed person, a person who does things based on what you have, the quality decisions you have made in your life, quality decisions in your mind, quality decisions that come out of the depths of your heart and the core of your being, then you're a strong-willed person. That's where self-control comes from, out of your will. If you have a weak will, you have very weak self-control. If you have a strong will, then you have strong self-control. The I, the me, the real me. I take charge over my body. I don't let my body do whatever it wants. Me on the inside, decides what my body can and cannot do, what it will and will not do. Where I'll go, what I'll do are based on what I decide, not what my flesh desires. Are you an active active participant? Are you an active person, or are you a reactive person? For me, of course, you all know, and I've shared this with you before, I'm a pastor. There is no such thing as off-duty. Even for police officers, there is no such thing as off-duty for you. Even when you're off-duty, you may be called upon in an emergency. Even if you're off-duty, even if it's the middle of the night and you're sleeping, it won't make any difference. There's no such thing as off-duty for you. Neither is there for me as a pastor or for people in other professions who are pursuing their dreams. There's no such thing as off-duty. But my point here is that I am the same. Whether I'm at church, in public, or at home, I remain the same all the time. I hold myself to a certain requirement at all times, and I'm never off duty. I've been around other people that are one way in public, but they're another way at home. And that's kind of shocking to discover, because I found out that they have a whole other persona, a whole other life over there that isn't necessarily in agreement with their public life. And that creates a friction. For me, it creates friction. It creates tension. It creates an atmosphere where this person is fake. They're not real. They're only real when they're at home. Really, that's where I see the real person. And it sends a mixed message. And for me personally, I'm not trying to push this off on you, but I have a zero respect for pastors who are one way in public or church, but suddenly have another persona behind closed doors or with their barcadas, where they allow certain things that they wouldn't allow any other time, or they wouldn't allow from the pulpit. I don't understand that. And for the police, I think it must be the same. You have to have the same standard at home as you do at work. You have to have the same standards at all times. If you're a real person, if you're a person with self-control, you don't have self-control at work, but not at home. Self-control works all the time. Self-control is who I have become. Otherwise, you send a mixed message, and that mixed message causes confusion and dilution of your message and loss of respect. People lose respect for you. So the active that we're talking about here takes charge over their flesh, over their flesh way of thinking, over their inappropriate way of thinking. The change comes from within and brings the body into enslavement as its tool. Okay? The body obeys without question. The body understands who the boss is. The boss is on the inside. Okay? But the reactive, the boss is on the outside. The boss is, whatever the flesh wants. The body takes charge over the mind. It informs the mind what it wants, and depending on the circumstance, which means they throw self-control out the window under certain circumstances. Okay? And the mind and spirit are passive and just allow the body to do whatever makes it happy. Self-actualization is about reaching and fulfilling your full potential. You might have potential. You might be using some of your potential, but are you using your full potential? And self-actualized people, or active people, are about reaching that full potential in their lives, fulfilling it. Everything that you're capable of being and doing. So let's just talk about potential for a moment here. In Ephesians chapter 4, verse 13, it says, "Till we all come in the unity of the faith and of the knowledge of the Son of God, unto a perfect man, unto the measure of the stature of the fullness of Christ. And Revelation chapter 1, verse 8 says, Jesus said of himself, I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the ending. Potential is a word used to describe everything you're capable of being and doing. Jesus reached that. And in Ephesians that we just read, we are expected also to become a perfect, or that word perfect doesn't mean perfect in English. It actually means to be fully furnished, to like take a room that is empty and making sure that it has all of the things that it needs inside of it, a fully furnished room. So are you a fully furnished, an empty room is useless. It needs to be furnished for it to be a well-developed and to be a well-used room. So if we want, if we want to be a person who reaches their full potential, as it's saying here, then we need to also be fully furnished. Well, thank you for this time as we were going through this topic, this study, this one on self-control and how to reach, the purpose of self-control is so that we can reach our full potential. God bless you. We'll see you on our next lesson.